we just now had the fucking president of the United States launch a meme coin. And that is going to have a huge trajectory on what this technology represents to people.
No one remembers Leland Stanford for all of his kind of scammy bond issuances that built the railroads in the West. Everyone remembers him for creating Stanford University.
Sure. But people do remember the antitrust cases against the railroads.
But you never know the side effects. To Robert's point, it's like it's like
you never know, but you can try your best to think about it. That's what our job is.
Not a dividend.
It's a tale of two clans.
Now your losses are on someone else's balance sheet.
Generally speaking, airdrops are kind of pointless anyways.
Unnamed trading firms who are very involved.
Alec.eth is the ultimate Ponzi.
DeFi protocols are the antidote to this problem.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Chopping Block. Every couple of weeks, the four of us get together and give the industry insider's perspective on the crypto topics of the day. The quick intros. First, we got Tom, the DeFi maven and master of memes.
Hello, everyone.
Next, we got Robert, the crypto connoisseur and czar of Superstate.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Next, we got Tarun, the Giga Brain and Grand Poobah at Gauntlet.
Yo.
And finally, I'm Haseeb, the head hype man at Dragonfly. We're early stage investors in crypto, but I want to caveat that nothing we say here is an investment advice, legal advice, or even life advice. Please see choppingblock.xyz for more disclosures. Okay, so we're doing an emergency episode today because there's just been so much craziness that has happened in the last 3 to 4 days. And it's a little bit, it reminds me of the Stalin saying that there are decades where nothing happens and there are weeks where decades happen. One of those weeks where it feels like a decade happened. I kind of got hit by a train, very little sleep over this weekend. I don't know how you guys are holding up, but this has been
shout out to our fans. Shout out to our fans who requested the emergency episode also.
I think it was requested on Friday.
Yeah, I think it was requested multiple.
Right.
There is a lot of people requesting, but I want to give them the shout out because there are many people kind of saying we should do it.
I was in DC. I took an early train back just to record this episode. That's how newsworthy it was.
Okay, so let's try to go through the chronology to help people understand what exactly happened and why this has been so monumental for the crypto industry. So let's walk through it one step at a time. So it started on Friday night. So Friday night was the Crypto Ball. So the Crypto Ball was an event thrown by the Trump inaugural team that invited a bunch of crypto leaders, influencers, KOLs, politicians to come to one place to celebrate the advent of the new administration and presumably the very different stance toward crypto that this administration was going to take. So Trump himself was not there, but many of the leaders of the Trump administration were going to be there, including David Sachs, a bunch of political appointees, as well as a bunch of industry leaders such as Michael Saylor, Brian Armstrong, the Winklevoss twins, and of course, the biggest industry leader of them all, Robert Leshner. I believe you were there. You were caught on camera in a bunch of places. Tell us about what the Crypto Ball was like, and also how much did it cost? Because that was also widely reported.
That's a great question. So it cost, I believe, $2,500. A lot of people had donated more money than that. There was a number of
that was the entry level ticket. There was like an invitation going around on social media. I think the highest tier was it $1 million?
I think it was
the highest tier.
Yeah, I think it was. And so what you really got out of this was like a full gamut of participants. People that thought it was a good investment to spend $2,500 to put on black tie and join the celebration of crypto. And then you had people that spent dramatically more than that, not to buy their way in, but because they wanted to show support. And so you had a litany of companies in the crypto ecosystem, some of the most powerful companies, all demonstrating their support with, $1 million potentially plus donations. I don't know the specifics there. And at the event, from the hours of 8 to 12:30, after midnight, it was the center of the universe in crypto. To your point, Haseeb, about who was there, everybody was there. It felt like everyone I've ever met within the crypto industry was there, plus another 5 times that many people that I've never met before and didn't recognize and had no idea who they were. But within that, there was, everything imaginable. There was Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, walking around and talking crypto, all the way down to George Santos, the disgraced former member of Congress, walking around talking about crypto. Yeah, you had a full spectrum.
Wait. What, George Santos? That's
Embarrassingly enough, yes. But you had,
Foreshadowing.
funny. Yeah.
yeah, but you had most of, the cabinet appointments were in attendance. You had, politicians from across, the aisles, coming in. You had really everybody who cares about crypto all in one place. The conversation was pretty much 100% focused on crypto, across the board. I don't think most people were talking sports or, the weather. And for most people there, the conversation was just about, how exciting it was to witness this change from the headwinds of the Biden administration to the tailwinds of the Trump administration. And the excitement was palpable. There was an incredible amount of optimism. There was an incredible amount of thoughtful discussion. And honestly, it's the best crypto event I've ever been to in my life, hands down. I don't know if there'll be the opportunity, again, to have such a watershed moment, which brings everybody together. I can't think of anything bigger than, the switch from Biden to Trump on crypto, but, this was an incredible event. And, should we stop the timeline there or keep going?
Yeah. So there was a line that was widely reported by David Sachs, of course, who's the new crypto czar. He stated, "The reign of terror against crypto is over, and the beginning of innovation in America for crypto has begun." And this kind of marked, I think, this energy that was defined the crypto ball. All the reporting, all the images that were coming out on social media is just this unbridled optimism that everything had suddenly changed and we're now in a totally new world. Now, at the same time, this was happening Friday night in New York City, or sorry, in DC. At the same time this happened, another thing was happening for the people who are online. So I was actually in Singapore at the time of the crypto ball, and so I was just waking up as this was happening. At the same time as the crypto ball was taking place, Donald Trump tweeted that he was dropping a meme coin called Trump. Now, this meme coin was largely unexpected. I don't think anybody was anticipating that this was going to happen. And it was also not communicated to anybody who was at the crypto ball, which you would think, okay, maybe the value of going to the crypto ball is that you get information about what Trump is going to do. Trump, of course, was not there, but presumably this was somebody on Trump's team, a group called CIC Digital, which was actually responsible for launching the meme coin. This meme coin launches on Friday night. And it is a Solana meme coin. And it started with roughly, within about 20 minutes of the launch of this meme coin, the market cap rose to about $3 billion. And that was when I first saw it, was, about 20 minutes after it launched. And within within like 8 hours, this thing hits a market cap of $30 billion. By Sunday, it hits an all-time high price of $72, giving it a $70 billion fully diluted valuation. This thing very quickly went into the top 15 of all tokens in crypto. And from launch, depending on if you were able to snipe the initial launch, was a 400x for some of the snipers who got in very, very early. Now, this thing is very weird. It's a very weird meme coin. Now, why do I say it's weird? It's weird for a few reasons. First of all, 80% of the allocation of this meme coin goes to quote unquote Trump and CIC Digital. 10% was in the public distribution and 10% was allocated to initial liquidity, which is very abnormal for a meme coin, right? Usually in a meme coin, like the economics are reversed, where the team might have 10 to 20% and the rest of the community is supposed to have 80%. That's the meme coin community energy that we associate with meme coins comes from that kind of a distribution. This is the complete inverse. The other thing that's notable about it is that of this 80% insider allocation, I believe it's the first unlock. So the unlocks are staggered. The first unlock happens in 3 months. But despite the fact that the first unlock was supposed to happen in 3 months, it's been reported that some of the wallets have already started selling, and that there have been hundreds of millions of dollars in sales from the tokens that were supposed to be allocated to CIC Digital. So there's a lot of fog of war right now about what exactly CIC Digital is doing or what the rules are. It's very vague. On the back of all of this, Solana, which of course was the place where the initial distribution of this token happened on pools on Meteora, which is a DEX on Solana. On the launch page for this token, it was announced, go buy this token on Solana using what's the name of the app?
Moonshot.
Moonshot, using Moonshot, which is basically a Memecoin, kind of direct to consumer app that you can download on the App Store.
It's like Robinhood for trading Solana coins.
Yeah, but it's directly on chain. And so Moonshot shot up to the top 10 apps on the iOS App Store in the US. I think it was like number 7. It ended up causing Solana to have massive load, more load than I think we've ever seen in crypto history on Solana. The Phantom wallet was basically knocked, like their RPCs were knocked over. They peaked at 8 million queries per second. Transaction failure rates on Solana mainnet went up to 40%, according to Weidai. You saw all-time high DEX volumes, 28 billion on Saturday, almost 40 billion on Sunday. It was just absolute pandemonium that you saw on chain. We've never seen anything like this. And it also caused Solana during the course of the Trump coin rally to go to an all-time high of $292. And so absolutely, records just shattered everywhere and complete pandemonium. So I'm going to stop there. What was your guys' experience of seeing Trump coin and the biggest meme coin launch we have ever seen from an incoming presidential candidate?
Well, I'll start with my perspective as somebody that wasn't paying.
You were at the crypto ball. What was
I was
that like?
at the crypto ball, and I started getting like one or two messages in group chats that I'm a member of, mostly from people that were not at the crypto ball, saying, in all caps, like, Trump just launched a meme coin, and as somebody that was like mingling with some of my closest friends and, a lot of, industry participants at the crypto ball, I said to myself, I'll research this later. When I get home tonight, I will look into whatever is going on. A few short hours later would prove to be a very long amount of time. And by the time I did get home, the launch had basically fully occurred. I mean, it was trading at a $20 billion valuation or something like that. So I missed it. Almost everyone at the crypto ball missed it because everybody was just so engrossed in some of the best conversations, that have been had in a long time, but, with extremely high quality people talking nuanced crypto. And so I would posit that.
So when you got home, how did you feel? How did you feel seeing what had happened while you guys were hanging out at the crypto ball?
I mean, honestly, just shock and amazement. There's never been a crypto token that has launched this successfully in history, period. Nothing has gotten to $1 billion faster. Nothing has gotten to $10 billion faster. Nothing has gotten to $50 billion faster. I mean, this has shattered every possible record. And it moved markets far outside of just, Trump coin itself. I mean, this fully, was moving the Solana versus Ether market. When I got home, most of my friends were talking about like putting on pair trades between Solana and Ether. This was like fundamentally changing the narrative of what blockchains are going to have adoption going forward and why, And so that's the magnitude of the launch.
It was not just that. It was also that every other token besides Solana, I think Radium and a few other Solana-based tokens, everything was down because people were selling everything to try to go buy Trump token on Solana. It was I'd never seen anything like that. It was crazy.
So by 12:30 when I left, most of the excitement had already occurred, so I think the narrative should start with somebody else because I missed the whole thing.
Yeah. So Tarun, what was your, how did you experience it?
I hadn't felt anything like summer 2020 as I did that night. I mean, I have never seen my group chats go as crazy. I've never seen so many Oracle failure alerts. We run a bunch of vaults on Solana as well. And I mean, I was just like, half these things, there were a ton of assets on Solana that were depegging because like everyone was exiting all the LSTs all at once to go buy Trump. There was a ton of pandemonium in DeFi actually. Also that like, this is more the underreported stuff, but I think if you're in the Solana transaction world trenches, you'll see a lot of this stuff. I think the minimum priority fee was like 10x the all-time high for sustained for hours. This is, remember when like Yuga Labs had the Otherland drop and that hit other side, sorry, and that had like the ETH all-time high transaction fee for like sustained for like 8 hours or whatever the whole time of the drop. This was like crazier than that. And I have to say, I was actually really impressed. The things that I think didn't go well for Solana were probably, like the oracles were not definitely had the most issues that I think I've seen. And admittedly, it's not their fault, right? Like, I don't think they were like sort of ready for like this level of like, I can't even submit a bundle. I think Jito had some issues yesterday and on Saturday, but they were fixed really quickly. I think like the firefighting from the Solana DeFi teams who are behind the scenes, kind of like making sure all this stuff runs, was crazy. I mean, a lot of them, I was on a bunch of, the kind of like Zoom calls where like people definitely look like they didn't sleep for 3 days. And yeah, but I think like in general, I would give them like a B plus, A minus, right? Like, sure, it wasn't A plus. There were definitely things that didn't work, but like, had this happened on like realistically right now, like OP or Arbitrum or Base, I'm not sure it would have been able to handle this amount of demand. Like this was actually the craziest
this is
demand
like
of
natural disaster level activity.
Yeah. This was like FTX crashing.
Insane.
This was like FTX crashing, except Solana did well, right? Like then you can like see the difference in quality of transactions landing. Like I agree, there were tons of mistransactions, delays, whatever, but the proposers were proposing, and generally, minus like a few small instances, like the MEV auctions were clearing and stuff like that. As I said, like the oracles, I think didn't realize that like there would be so much demand that like they could not even get a transaction landed for a while. But I eventually that kind of got better. But I think in general, this was like a very impressive stress test. Like, and so I'm thinking of this from like the on-chain.
Yeah, you're like the train engineer in the back, just being this thing's rumbling like crazy.
Yeah.
It's about
Look at the
tracks.
tracks.
Gears are falling
or
off.
like I'm adjacent to that, and like was like a lot. So it was like kind of that was like, but I think like the Solana teams deserve a lot of credit for like a lot of the stuff working behind the scenes. So that's the first thing. The second thing is like, I think it was very interesting that they kind of like chose Meteora and Jupiter effectively, and like honestly that was like a very smooth launch for something of such high liquidity over such a small amount of time, where like you even forget about on the just people buying side, which is like normal meme coin stuff. The standard automated market makers and even the sort of RFQ systems in a lot of places would not have been able to handle that demand. And like, I actually thought Meteora did really well. And basically you were seeing like very active market making on AMMs in a way that I also hadn't seen in a long time. Like the last time I saw that was really like an emergency, like FTX. So it was like funny. FTX is like the down emergency, and this is like the up emergency, if that makes sense. There's sort of like, and the two stress tests are kind of different also, which is like, but yeah, that level of demand, that level of liquidity was insane. I think the other thing that was crazy to me was just the sheer number of people who've never used crypto before who had wallets. Like I have never gotten more messages than I did on like Sunday morning of like, how do I download crypto? Or like, how do I, how do I download crypto? like literally like stuff like that, like from people I haven't heard from in a while.
I got that from people that had never bought crypto before. This is the scope of what happened. People that have never bought crypto before were messaging me saying, how do I buy Trump? How do I buy crypto? And I was amazed that this would bring in people that just had never traded a meme coin before. That's
actually people I know who hated crypto were like, how do I buy this?
Yeah, so I thought was
also funny.
I think by Monday it was listed on Binance. It just got listed on Robinhood, I think like 16 hours ago. So now there are many more places where you can buy it more easily. I think it's not on Coinbase yet, but it's on a ton of exchanges. I think Bybit was one of the first to list it. So now it's at the point now where most of the volume is coming through centralized exchanges, but there was a good 48 hours that almost all of the volume was happening on chain, even after it got listed. I think Mexi or something was the first to list it, but even then, vast majority of the volume was happening on chain. Tom, you were in DC. What was your experience?
Yeah, there's always, I think, a lag between when something happens in crypto and when it kind of starts to go mainstream. And we kind of joke about Coinbase hitting the top of the charts as being kind of a top indicator, and obviously that's sort of a lagging effect. I think it was the shortest latency between something happening in crypto and normal friends and just people in the mainstream understanding it. Like I had journalists texting me like, what does 10% liquidity mean? Like, what do you think of this thing? Random friends of mine, saying, yeah, how do I do crypto, basically? So I was very just shocked by like how online everyone was and how mainstream this went. I guess it is the president of the United States launching a meme coin, which is also kind of unprecedented. But I also, you could do a reactions session, but I think overwhelmingly for people I know in crypto, I think there was sort of a sense of dread and fatigue. And I think the reaction to the meme coin launch was actually not great. Obviously impressive that all the infrastructure held up super well. And like the fact that this worked, but it's kind of like, what does this mean for the industry? What does this mean for Trump? What does it mean for, future potential launches? And kind of like you were alluding to, the whole thing feels a little griftery. Seems like there was a lot of insider trading. It's not, there isn't quite like a destination at the end of this. It's not quite clear what the point of this was. Whereas with World Liberty, you could make some sort of vague argument around this being some sort of DeFi application. It's like how does it actually create value and look good for the industry? And I don't know what the answer is.
I will say one.
Go ahead, Tarun.
Sorry, one thing I kind of will add to that is like I just never thought there would be so many people who are willing to go on chain at the same time. And like it's kind of crazy that you needed something like that to Tom's point, to that extent to get people to move from centralized exchanges. But it did feel like that was crazy.
To be fair, Moonshot is a pretty slick experience in terms of abstracting out most of this sort of on-chainness, right? Really, it's more CDFI in the sense of, you're trading on chain, but the actual experience is not. You get a seed phrase and you have to, back it up somewhere. Also, amazing coup for that team. I mean, Moonshot, it's been around for a while. I think it's a slick app. Never, I think, had insane volumes if you look at, DeFi Llama. And this was, that would be something, a flash in the pan. Hey, over the weekend, there's sort of this surge and then it comes back down. And like their volumes and their fees are still going up. So pretty crazy that they were able to, I think, sustain all of this for being a pretty small new team. And then also, I think, frankly, I don't know the backstory, but being selected as the destination, when you go to the site, you click on the link and it sends you out to Moonshot. Like that's a pretty insane get.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. It built their brand from not that much to being a power player instantly.
Yeah. I think they're still number 5 in the App Store ranking. So they're just crushing it.
Oh, that's crazy. Wow. Okay. So there's a lot to process here with respect to what this means. And I think, when I was watching this happen on Friday, Saturday, it felt like the reactions to Tom's point were kind of mixed. I think some people were like, this is great. Trump is putting crypto in the limelight. This is bringing a bunch of people into crypto. And he's like embracing the craziness and the intrinsic chaos that crypto represents, right? Meme coins, okay, that's kind of a lot of what crypto is about. Some people had the opposite reaction of like, oh, it's going to be 4 years of grift, and it's a lot of people talking about crime. You saw Zach XBT in the responses talking about, oh, I guess crime is legal now, implying that we're calling this thing a meme coin. Of course, this thing is really more of a celeb coin, right? And we've talked about celeb coins before on the show. It's not a meme, right? I mean, he owns 80% of the supply. He's responsible, presumably, for making sure that this thing is going to be successful. And the other thing that is very weird and distortive about Trump coin is that on a mark-to-market basis, this is now overwhelmingly the vast majority of Trump's net worth is Trump meme coin, Trump the meme coin. If he owns 80% of the supply, or let's say he owns, a majority of that 80% of the supply, then this dwarfs any of his other economic interests. Now, it's unclear whether or not he's actually be able to monetize that. But from what I read, the teams that were, wallets that were tagged to the team already sold $500 million worth of Trump token, meaning that almost certainly he's going to be able to make billions of dollars of cash from Trump meme coin. And billions of dollars is probably an underestimate given the amount of demand that we're seeing for this thing. So what all this tells you is that, okay, World Liberty Financial was interesting. People were talking about, oh, he owns some ETH. on a pass-through basis, right? And that was maybe, I don't know, like some tiny portion of his net worth. Trump Memecoin is the most important thing now in Trump's portfolio. He now really, really, really is incentivized to make sure that Trump Memecoin is successful, or in other words, that he can successfully divest from the Trump Memecoin. And there was a lot of reporting that I saw from the mainstream press. Obviously, all the mainstream press was covering this. But most of the reporting was about the ethics concerns around this, which I think are also pretty obvious, right? Part of what was unprecedented about this is not that, a president is launching a meme coin. What's unprecedented is the fact that, he's basically engaging in a new kind of grifty, kind of PvP business enterprise the moment before he gets inaugurated. That is unprecedented. That is really weird. No president does that. That is really uncharted territory. And it's also been pretty clear from Trump's positioning is that he's kind of not having it with respect to following traditional norms about what a president is supposed to do with respect to divesting their business interests. Very clearly, he's not planning to do that. Or if he does, it's going to be divesting on retail's heads with respect to the Trump token. So, okay, this is kind of the backdrop of the drama that's been unfolding with respect to Trump token and a lot of the conversations that were happening online. Then, about 24 hours ago, we get a second meme coin. And this second meme coin, surprise, surprise, it's Melania token. So Melania tweets and Trump retweets that Melania is launching a meme coin and it's called Melania. And it's largely the same playbook, although it looks like it's a different team because the way in which they did it was a little bit different. But the Melania meme coin is, let's get some of the details here. So the Melania meme coin, unlike the Trump meme coin, Melania was 80, let me be sure I get this right. I believe it was 86% owned by the token, owned by the team. So even more owned by the team than what Trump did. And it looks like it was a lot more chaotic and like not well executed. I didn't see a lot of the details, but it appears to be that the moment that Melania coin dropped and it was retweeted by Trump, the entire crypto market started tanking. And so Solana started tanking, Trump coin started tanking. I think Trump went down something like, what was it, like 30 to 40% the moment that Melania coin dropped?
Yeah, it's like it went from like 70-ish to like 35 in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
One other thing,
the Melania reaction.
One other thing that from the infrastructure trenches, not the trading trenches, is that was the worst time period for infrastructure. Like that was when the MEV auctions were having the most trouble. So the Melania drop was actually even crazier than the Trump drop because tons of people were trying to exit.
I see. So the craziness was that the Melania drop, unlike Trump, so Trump I think was controversial. Trump was very polarizing. Melania, uniformly negative. Everybody hated this. Even if you were like, oh, I love Trump and I love this thing, everybody was like, oh my God, Trump, what are you doing? You are diluting your own token. You're diluting the narrative. Now this looks extremely grifty. The token mechanics of this are even griftier than the first one with 88% going to the team. And markets just were just absolute, just welching in response to seeing this thing happen. And this, I think, is really the tone setter. This is really the tone setter in that this is like, oh, okay, you're just going to keep doing this. This is not wow, I'm going to have like this one thing as an homage to Trump and I'm going to really put my weight behind this thing. This is like, oh, Trump sees crypto and meme coins like he sees for-profit universities and steak knives and casinos, is that this is just another way to monetize the Trump family name. And I think this has now caused something of a really significant reversal in the sentiment of what this means for crypto. Now, as of right now, Trump is trading somewhere in the 40s. So it's like, I think 45-ish right now. Melania is, slightly sub 10. So these things are, in absolute terms, are still worth a lot of money. These are two of the most valuable meme coins in existence. But I think the pall that it's put over crypto is now pretty clear. So with that as context, I want to go around and get your reaction of what do you think this all means? Tom, why don't you go first?
I was going to say, the other thing that happened at the same time was also World Liberty ended up selling out the rest of its allocation, and like Eric Trump was tweeting. So it was like a very dense like Trump family crypto, like 48 hours of sort of all these things happening on chain. I agree. I think this is the tone setter. This was like are you to do one for everyone in the family? Like, where does this really end? And yeah, I don't know. I think this kind of cemented my view, as you were sort of saying, of this isn't just some cool one of one. And I think you can make a story around like NFTs and why you would want multiple collections, and it's much more clearly a sort of transactional collectory kind of thing. I actually thought it was interesting in the terms and conditions for the Trump meme card coin. They call them cards, almost as like, I don't know if it's like a regulatory allusion to kind of the NFTs, or like what they think is
I
really
assume
buying them.
they copy and pasted from the original card collection, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's the same holding company, so maybe there's some sort of like tie-in there. But yeah, it was just I think overall very disappointing, and the funding rates for Melania were also crazy. It was like 4,000, 5,000% annualized or something. So like just I think
that's not that high. The funding rates on Trump when it first launched, going back from like group chat conversations, were like 10,000%, like 15,000%.
And also they were worse on Hyperliquid and Drift for a little while.
Oh yeah,
it was like they like completely blew out on chain.
Anybody shorting that, trying to collect the funding rate? I'm like, geez.
Yeah. No, so this was the other way around. This was long funding rate. So people, it was going down so much that people were shorting it. So
Melania was going down. Oh, I see.
Yes,
I see.
Yeah.
It was
so
negative 4,000%.
Negative.
Yeah, 5,000% to be long. So people really hated this thing, and I think the markets kind of spoke to that. And then obviously there was a lot of speculation around. There's like I think a poly market for like, will Barron launch a token because he's supposed to be the crypto Trump guy, and I think people also found the wallet of this guy who runs Students for Trump, who launched this like TikTok meme coin when there was sort of a rumor around TikTok potentially being bought or sold and revived, and then he like sold all of that. So it was just a very kind of gross, I would say, 48 hours around Trump and crypto, and it didn't feel like there was really anything kind of giving back to the industry, which is ultimately what people want, is a real embrace of the ethos and the mission behind crypto, and not these kind of very surface level sales effectively.
Robert, what's your reaction to this whole situation?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sort of two minds, and I'm split sort of equally. On the one hand, I think that it distracts from what should be the focus of the Trump administration and crypto. I think the focus should be on, how do we create good tax policy and, regulation, and how do we, establish Bitcoin as a, strategic asset, and like all of these things that the crypto community has been talking about for years, right? Like the hot button issues from the perspective of the crypto industry. And I do think fundamentally, because this went to $70 billion, it distracts from that. I think if Trump coin was less successful, I think honestly, if it was like $1 billion, I don't think it would be a distraction at all from these larger issues. And so I think because of its success, which I don't think anyone could have expected, I'm sure Trump and his team didn't expect that. I mean, I don't think anyone in crypto, commentariat expected that. I don't think, this was part of the status quo expectations. And so because of its runaway success, it has dominated the conversation in a way that I think does distract from other policy conversations. On the other hand, this goes to what you said earlier, Haseeb. This is the largest portion of Trump's net worth is crypto. Prior to this, he had like $10 million of crypto from NFT sales, approximately, which to a billionaire is vaguely material, right? But not enough to spend 24/7 thinking about it. This amount of wealth is something that would cause anybody to think about it roughly 24/7. I mean, we're talking tens of billions of dollars that have appeared out of thin air. That is so meaningful. And, if there was any question about whether Trump was going to care about crypto, he's financially bought in at this point beyond anyone's imagination. And so from that perspective, I actually think is good, in unexpected ways.
But only one very tiny sliver of crypto, which is his own meme coin.
For now, like it's possible that over time, he converts some of that into Bitcoin. It's possible that who knows what happens, but he's now, I would imagine, the biggest crypto believer that there is, like of anyone on earth, besides maybe Satoshi, who has more, he's probably, I haven't done the math on this, the second largest holder behind Satoshi. It's possible he's larger than now. He's not larger than Satoshi, but there's no way. But it's close. That's the thing. In a matter of 2 days, he became the second largest crypto holder on earth. That is crazy.
I mean, so to be clear, there's absolutely no way that he could actually realize, his 80% of a meme coin.
Just like Satoshi,
the moment he starts selling it,
1 million coins. I mean, come on, like anyone disposing of
there's a lot thicker order book for a lot thicker demand side for Bitcoin than there is for Trump coin once. So that's the thing. We've yet to see what that divestment process looks like, but almost certainly he will divest. There's no freaking way that he's going to be like, I think with Truth Social, Trump has been very assiduously being like, oh, I'm not going to sell. I'm holding on to Truth Social. Truth Social is his SPAC that controls the company. That's like the Twitter clone thing that he runs, which I think on paper is worth billions. But of course, like the liquidity for it is very thin. If he unloaded it, it probably wouldn't have anywhere near that. I think with Trump coin, probably there's more liquidity than there would be for Truth Social, I assume. But I think it's not, it's nowhere near 1-for-1, right? It's not like you're holding Bitcoin or real estate.
There was a good Kaiko breakdown. And obviously, functionally, given that there's such low float, there is going to be very little liquidity. But they kind of compared Trump to like Doge, for example. And there's like 10 times less resting bids for Trump than for like Doge, which, is sort of maybe what people think about when they think about meme coins. And it's still early, but I'm just like, I think people underrate the liquidity crunch.
Just to talk
that's partially because it's crazy volatile right now.
Well, that's also because it's almost entirely on chain, and almost everyone trading it on chain is using market orders, not setting limit orders. There's very few market makers, I would imagine. Like, this is a meme coin that was launched on chain to a retail audience that is just trying to hit the buy button. And when it's gone up enough, hit the sell button, right? Like, the structural liquidity is not going to be there yet versus a Dogecoin or something like that. But like, it's very rapidly being integrated throughout the CeFi, ecosystem. So like every exchange is listing Trump. I mean, within.
Yeah, I think that's what this analysis is about, is even on exchanges, you're looking at like a few hundred K. And you're right that it's still early and it's volatile. And I think that also does explain it. But, we talk always about the issues with like marking to market and considering sort of liquidity conditions in crypto, and this feels like it could be a poster child for that.
Yeah, I do think, given another couple of weeks, I think Trump will stabilize, and that will probably result in a lot more liquidity than what you see today. I mean, this thing is going down. It's going up like 50%, down 50% in the span of a few hours. So this is a crazy fucking asset right now relative to Dogecoin. Dogecoin is comparatively tame.
Where do you think the price stabilizes?
I think it probably stabilizes around 40, but I think that's like for 3 months. I think in 3 months is when the first tranche unlocks, supposedly. I mean, I don't know what's been going on with respect to the wallet selling, but the first tranche is supposed to unlock in 3 months. And I think that is going to be the beginning of a very different market reaction to what's happening with Trump coin. But it's hard to say. Tarun, we didn't get your reaction. What do you think all this does from a macro perspective?
I mean, in general, I do agree. There is certainly a sense in which it is very opportunistic. I think I prefer looking at, and like, a lot of people I know who are like have been in crypto for a while were certainly quite dismayed. On the other hand, I think it's like the greatest source of on-chain users. So like, I think if I take the dialectic, I'm like, we literally got the most number of users using a chain. I think pretty much everyone that's on Solana has to count it as an L in some way, because like they were not able to attract user demand in a way anywhere near this amount ever. Not saying that won't change in the future. I'm just saying that like, this puts Solana in a certain tier category.
It feels pretty over with respect to meme coins, right? I think anybody's ability to attract meme coins, I think it's kind of GG. Once Trump coin launches on Solana, everybody else who launches a meme coin is going to pick Solana like 100%.
Yeah, I think that might be true. But the other thing I think that's actually really important that I'm just more focused on this, like people using actual on-chain stuff and not just like living on centralized exchanges and pretending they know what a transaction is. I thought it was actually quite crazy to have such a large amount of liquidity moving on chain ever. Like I think we've really never seen this, and the way the derivatives exchanges on chain were able to handle launching way faster than CeFi, and the DEX to centralized exchange volume numbers are all-time high. Like it was almost a joke when GMX launched in 2020, or like I guess late 2021, but like 2022 when people started using it, to even imagine that there would be 12% perpetuals on-chain volume to centralized volume, market share wise. We've surpassed that, right? And so like the idea that things are going to move on-chain, I think that to me is actually the beauty of it. Now, the other thing I thought was really funny was like watching people's reactions who are like really, I would say like maximalist of some form, not necessarily Bitcoin maximalist, but maximalist, and like staked their social reputation completely on the election. They're like, I'm super pro Trump and whatever. And then watching their reactions over the weekend and looking at the different buckets of different people. So there was like the Balaji bucket where like at first he was like, it's a little grifty, but whatever. And then the second coin came and it's like, no, everything's a grift, I think there's the Balaji Naval camp, which were like that. Then there was like the Bitcoin maximalists who are like completely confused because they're like, Trump is our savior. He's going to buy a strategic Bitcoin reserve, but he's a shit coiner. I can't like, watching the like confused like Psyduck face on them was like amazing. Like one of the, I think reading Twitter was hilarious. And then the Ethereum side was like, half of them were like, Solana's fake and all the volume is fake and it's a grift. And it's like, you guys don't fucking even use a blockchain and are clearly not understanding how real this volume is. That was one side. And then there's the people on ETH who are like, oh shit, like rollups would never have survived this. And actually we need to get our shit together. And I think there's a civil war that on the Ethereum side is starting a little bit. And it's going to be very interesting to watch in 2025 because it really does feel like we went from like kumbaya to like the pickaxes are out and the knives are out. And I think that this kind of like you said, cemented Solana for meme coins, but also cemented Solana in terms of ability to attract liquidity when there is a really sharp demand change.
Yeah. And I just looked it up on DeFi Llama. There was $4 billion of stable coins that came in to Solana in the span of about a day and a half. So basically double the stable coin supply on Solana.
I was going to say, I think that number correlates very closely with the increase in the market cap of the circulating supply of Trump, honestly. Like,
yeah, that's right. I mean, it was basically, presumably that was almost all liquidity that was getting injected, and then
that was new money coming into
Solana
and buying Trump.
That's right. There was a tweet by Ben, the founder of Bybit, who was saying this is the biggest day, besides FTX, this was like one of the biggest days of outflows from every single centralized exchange of people just taking USDC, taking Sol, and running to go on chain. Like they'd never seen anything like that before.
And to me, so there's obviously the mindset of like, okay, are meme coins really fulfilling the mission of permissionless money? And so, obviously not. But are they getting users on chain and now they have wealth on chain and they're like, now they can go explore the city? Absolutely. And so like, but to me,
here's the question then. Yes. So I hear that perspective. And I think that is the most positive way which you can frame what's happened in the last 72 hours. But the way that I see it, I mean, look, most of these users are using Moonshot, right? Moonshot is basically just like a trading interface. Like, I mean, if you're using Moonshot, like to Tom's point, it abstracts everything from you. You can't necessarily even tell that you're on chain. It just looks like a Web2 type experience. It's like you're using Robinhood or something, just trading meme coins. And I think the idea that there's going to be this sort of GDP leakage from these people of participating in the on-chain economy, I think very, very unlikely. I think they might buy other meme coins, and maybe like on it sort of leaks out through people who are really on chain. But I would guess the amount of conversions of people who are buying Trump coin, who are going to spend any other time doing anything else, It's like people who go to Paris and they only go to the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre and then they leave. That kind of feels like what people who are buying Trump coin are doing. They buy Trump, they buy Melania, and then they're out.
It's a lot more people going to Paris though. Like I think like
Yes.
It is. But is this actually going to, like, some guy who runs like a little, boulangerie, is he going to see any more people come in and like some, back?
Yes, of course. I mean, speculation and trading is the first killer use case of crypto rails, period, full stop, right? And it's not the last use case, it's the first use case. Just like the internet in 1993 was almost entirely porn and like things that people didn't love. And they said, oh, is this really what we're using the internet for? You can critique the use case of like meme coins, but we are getting almost everybody to get off their couch and learn what crypto is and try these rails for the first time. Yeah, in 1983, they probably used it for porn on the internet. But like this is like, and maybe you could say this is equivalent. Like, oh, it's not a great use case. But it is getting everyone to experience this new thing for the first time in that way. And I think there will be a lot of people that go from trading a crypto asset for the first time to saying like, oh, what else do I do with this wallet? How does it work? Can I send it to friends? Can I, like, what's the browser? Almost everyone I know who's like a deep in the weeds degen started off by buying some shitcoin,
So another thing I'll say is like, the vertically integrated hypothesis from DeFi summer like 2020 of like someone will build a DeFi protocol, get a lot of users, then they'll build a better front end, then they'll build a wallet. And like, I think that was just too early to do then in 2020, whereas it's showing that now you can do that. And like, I think that is that to me is also a kind of big shift to developers, right? Which is like, actually, you want to own eyeballs and the funnel to your protocol, not just the protocol. And like, I think that was like a money losing endeavor for a lot of people for a while. And in general, that sort of new funnel, like, yes, I agree. Most people will just go to the Eiffel Tower, but 10% of them will go to a nightclub. And of that 10% that went to a nightclub, 1% of them will come back to Paris because they like had such a good night. And like now you have recurring users and recurring usage.
Yeah.
And like, yes, it's not going to be everyone, but if you actually have this compounding
let me
of the new users.
So I hear your point, and you're absolutely right. There are some percentage of people who will say, hey, what is this thing? Looks like I can export my key from Moonshot, and like, okay, what do I do with that? And yeah, there will be some people who show up and are interested in learning more about what's going on chain. I think to Tom's point, World Liberty Financial, whatever you might think about the quality of it, very clearly was like square at the center of the heart of what crypto is supposed to be about, which is about financial innovation. Look, you can argue about how innovative it actually is, but at least ostensibly, it's trying to build a DeFi protocol, a stable coin, whatever. I don't really understand exactly what they're trying to build, but that's like the general area of what they're trying to do, right? To me, it's very clear what was the point of Trump token, and then the point of Melania token, right? Very clearly, it is of a kind with his SPAC. It is of a kind with a for-profit university. It is in some way to say crypto is a great way to have an even faster transfer from retail investors to my wallet. And I think that's what you're going to see. I think it has also turned a lot of people against crypto. I think we had a moment before Trump's inauguration of bipartisan agreement that crypto is good. And it took a lot of work and a lot of fucking blood, sweat, and tears to get to the point that everybody in America seemingly had a positive valence toward crypto for the first time almost ever.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know.
I think that is over.
Half, I'd say greater than 50% of my friends probably would still be like, I hate crypto.
Way more than 50%. Way more than 50%. I mean, just look at Congress. Just look at Congress. Like Congress basically completely turned over with respect to crypto. And I think what you're going to see now is that the Democratic coalition of being pro-crypto, my prediction is that this is going to fall apart. And the way in which Trump is now positioning himself with respect to crypto and what crypto is going to represent, now he's going to say, look, we should deregulate crypto. Oh, immediately you're going to ask why. And the answer is fucking obvious, right? Why? Is because basically crypto is now about him. It's about him personally and the Trump family. And that is how it's going to be perceived. I think this is ultimately bad for crypto. Now, in absolute terms, it's good relative to where we were in the Biden administration. That I agree with. But relative to what we thought we were getting, I think this is a much worse meal to be eating than what we thought we were going to be eating just a month ago.
I'll agree and I'll disagree. So I will agree with the idea that this is increasing the partisan fissures surrounding crypto. I think in general, you have a lot of people that correlate Republican who just got rich by buying Trump Memecoin. The retail public in general, I have neighbors that have never bought crypto before that are like, I'm buying Trump. Like, I can't wait. This is amazing. You have a lot of people that just made money out of thin air. And there's a lot of new support, mostly correlated to the Republican side. And I think a lot of the critique is coming from the other side. You're talking about there's a lot of skepticism now. I would say that correlates Democrat. And so if anything, it's just going to create more of a partisan gap that will play out over the next series of elections. And that could be good, that could be bad, right? It's hard to say.
Why would that possibly be good?
Well, it's possible that it forces tight majorities around crypto, and the House Republicans become even more in lockstep around we are pro crypto, or the House Democrats, even if they're a little bit more opposed to it, get stomped on, or whatever it might winds up being. It's hard to say. Politics is so complicated and so intertwined.
I think you are underestimating how badly this is going to go. So right now, a lot of people own Trump coin, right? It's probably floating right now 40 billion. Trump is going to start selling, or whatever, CIC Digital is going to start selling in about 3 months. And in a year, even more unlocks, right? There's more unlocking than the entire supply owned by retail within a year. This is going to be a fucking bloodbath, right? I don't think it's just Democrats who are going to be unhappy with the way that all of this plays out. And I think there's a reason why people don't do, the reason why this is such a norm violation with respect to meme coins. The people who are buying this stuff do not understand. They do not understand what they're buying. They don't understand the mechanics. They don't understand the unlock schedule.
They're not discussing
they don't understand how
what's versus circulating supply. None of the people that have traded crypto for 30 minutes are that deep.
I think it's slightly maybe more nuanced view. I think if you're buying a meme coin, I think you're buying a meme coin. And I think people get the game. They like the PvP casino kind of thing. I think the thing I don't like about this is this 80% going to Trump. It doesn't feel like you're actually, hey, we're trading back and forth and maybe I'll make some money, maybe I'll lose some money. It's like you're playing at a casino and there's an 80% rake. Now there's a 90% rake and you're going to lose money. And I think that is really the thing that I feel like I had issue with. In addition to, I think potential risk of, as you mentioned, hey, they don't have to, release their holdings when they take office for something like crypto. Very easy to be compromised by, a foreign adversary buying a lot of your token or doing something with respect to your token, or value leakage happening that way as well. I mean, you already see a little bit of this, frankly, with World Liberty Financial buying WPTC and Justin Sun saying, hey, thanks for buying WPTC. There's this weird value leakage on sort of the outskirts of the apparatus that is designed to prevent this kind of political interference. And it just was not prepared for something like this to happen. And I'm worried that you get one bad incident or story like that, and it just kind of poisons the whole well.
I mean, look, none of us.
I agree. That's a huge risk.
That Trump token.
Risk.
Yeah, fine. None of us doubt the Trump token will be down a lot in a year, right? I think all of us understand enough about crypto to understand that will happen. 90% likelihood that when the team starts selling and they're going to sell a lot of fucking tokens, this thing is going to go down and retail investors are going to lose money. It's not people in the crypto trenches who are going to lose money. They're going to get out way earlier, right? They're the ones who are watching the unlocks. They're the ones who are looking at some of these accounts that are tracking the wallets. The retail investors who came in through Moonshot are the ones who are going to be sitting there holding the bag. The people buying on Robinhood, the people buying on, whatever other platforms. What effect do you think that has, Robert?
Okay, so first off, I don't think it's inevitable that the price of Trump will be lower 1 year from now than it is today. I know there's a lot of probabilities that go into it. It's not inevitable in my mind. I think there's
what's the probability you think that happens?
70%. I think there's a 30% chance it's higher. I think there's a 30% chance that it becomes the largest meme coin in existence. And it has staying power in a way that people don't expect. Everything about this is unexpected. There's so large of an incentive to let it not die that I think we might see things we've never seen.
I don't think
before.
it dies. There's no way it dies.
Sorry,
There's
I mean,
gonna be
but like
people holding this thing
fizzles
until-
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's so many people that are probably surrounding the Trump camp right now with like creative ideas to make this thing even bigger and even more successful that I wouldn't count this out. I mean, I think this was like satire, maybe it was just, you know, off of Twitter I was reading, but people were, you know, saying like, oh, what if Trump airdrops this to everybody? You know, like you could easily give some to every single American and have,
I mean,
who knows? I'm not saying it's a good idea, but I'm saying
you saw what he did with Melania, right? Like, really, you're having this degree of optimism about his stewardship of this token.
I'm just saying, don't count it out yet. This is like n equals 0 for anything like this before. It is so unexpected. It's so black swan. It's so like
sure, okay, but
impossible.
you still think the median outcome is that this thing is down in a year?
Yes, I think from the technical structure of the ownership, if the 80% that's held by Trump and the developers is sold, then I think there's good odds. If it follows the playbook that he's using right now with DJT, the SPAC, right, where he says, I'm not going to sell any, I actually think you get into very different territory. You know, it's possible that he has diamond hands and has a time horizon longer than 1 year, right? He's going to be in the White House for 4 years. And so I just wouldn't rule out the fact that this asset does something we haven't seen before because it's already done that. It's already shattered every possible record. You know, it's possible that, you know, this continues to like break our expectations.
I guess like the one thing I'd say is like, I agree that there's obviously a lot of like very unseemly, unfavorable, negative stuff around this, right? Especially if you've been in crypto for a while. Like, I think like the funniest person to read, I got talked about the different hierarchies of people's coping mechanisms, but Nick Carter really, I think, took the S tier. Like, I was like super pro Trump.
I did not.
And
see
he's
this.
like, emoluments clause is being violated, you know, etc. Like,
he came out hard against it. From the context of being that he's, you know, a huge Trump supporter.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say that I think you have to always never underestimate your adversaries, and like the Democrats will obviously seize on this, right? Like, this is the easiest fucking thing to go after. So I kind of think there will be some creative thing, like Leshner is saying, where it's like they end up not selling, but like more due to like having adversaries found a way to pin them down so that they can never sell. Like, there's going to be a lot of political wrangling. Like, I would not say that launching this token was a locally rational decision for any individual. But I would say it might actually globally be very interesting, right? It like made the on-chain economy way crazier. But also B, it might actually like turn this whole thing into this like weird contest of like what to do with these funds, which will be kind of like the world's biggest bounty hunt. And like, I don't know how that ends. All I know is we've gone into Squid Game territory more than like normal 100% stuff.
This is a crazy.
This is like I couldn't even like think about it this way. How many countries have a GDP less than what is involved in this?
It's currently 35.
You think they're all not looking at the same thing, thinking that they want to do the same thing? I think there's going to be a lot of very weird adversarial games played. That
the dam has broken open in the most interesting way.
Yeah.
I would have agreed with you guys pre-Melania token, because I think there's also like a little bit of precedent in like the Trump NFT thing where it's like, oh, you buy the NFTs, you can come to the dinner. And Trump is also a businessman and has a long history of understanding that you can have assets and borrow against them. And that there's ways to get liquidity that involve just like, you know, market selling a bunch of your stuff. The Melania thing feels like you really tipped your hand and it's just like, okay, this was actually just a cash grab and we're going to try to do as many different things like that as possible, coupled with the fact that we really have not gotten, and granted, it's day zero.
The only counterpoint, and I'll just interject, Tom, from what I understand from Twitter research, the Melania coin was launched by a totally different team and probably not in collaboration with Trump. So like,
yes,
it's
yeah,
not
I
that
mean,
he
there's
launched both.
no way. No, so I agree that there was a different team. There was no way that they did not coordinate on literally the president and the first lady launching meme coins within 2 days of each other, right? Like that's clearly wrong. They definitely
Well,
didn't coordinate.
technically,
They just had different teams.
also a very important correction to what you just said. Almost president. Because technically he wasn't president when they launched,
Technically,
which
yes,
is a
correct.
very,
He was not
this is
president
an
at the moment
important
it launched.
technical point that will show up in this adversarial war I'm expecting, is the
Yes,
fact that
yes,
it was right before. The right before is the most
Right, he
important.
didn't do it as president.
We also have not gotten, I think, a lot of love around the things that people actually cared about in crypto and were promises. Granted, we'll see what comes about, but people I think were very disappointed by no crypto mentioned
No
in
executive
the inaugural
order.
address.
No executive order as of now.
So we'll see. I think maybe that also changed my opinion as well. But right now it feels like a lot of lip service and a lot of grift and very little of substance.
So to your point, Tom, the inauguration just took place. We're recording this right after the inauguration. And in the inaugural address, he made a lot of promises to the crypto community that he was going to do a bunch of things on day one. None of those things have happened. Now, Gary Gensler actually did get, he did depart, so he didn't need to get fired. That was one of his promises. And apparently now we have Mark Uyeda, who's going to be the acting chair until Atkins presumably gets confirmed. And we also have Carolyn Pham for the CFTC because Rostin Benham, he ended up stepping down. But there was nothing at all, no mention of crypto in the inaugural address. And he had a big stack of executive orders that he signed on stage and then like threw the pens into the audience. And none of them involved anything with respect to crypto. And so you saw crypto markets actually go down significantly on noticing that Trump did not have any mention at all of crypto in his first day of executive orders. So now all that being said, like you said, it's day one, still a lot of room to see what ends up happening. But all of this, I think, tells a consistent story. And the consistent story is that Trump's a businessman. He sees crypto the same way that he sees a lot of other ways to monetize the Trump name. Trump is first and foremost a celebrity. And he knows the game. The game is you monetize your fame through brand deals and sponsorships and mugs and steak knives and all
Saving
the
TikTok
shit.
with
And
an executive order.
that I think is real politics. That right there is real politics, right? But with respect to crypto, it really seems like this is just part of the Trump portfolio of how you monetize the Trump name. And so, I don't know. You guys clearly have a much more positive valence toward this, or you guys being Tarun and Robert, than I do.
Look. You have to understand.
Incredibly disheartened, like incredibly disheartened by what
I'm
happens
not
with
saying
him.
I'm not. I don't like. For the record, I said there's a lot of stuff that is as negative as you could want from a person who's been in crypto for a while perspective. But I think the fact that we got users and we actually were able to like prove a new modality on chain, like like I don't really care that much about like 90%. Like I mean I do a little bit, but I don't really care that much about 90% of the regulation because most of it is like helping CeFi and onboarding and stuff that's like not at the cutting edge. The fact that we were able to test things much more near the bleeding edge at the utmost capacity, thanks to this, I think that is an insane silver lining. And the fact that it's actually making decentralized protocols
totally
use so much more.
What you're describing is a fucking stress test. Okay. I think what I am describing is like, what is crypto going to represent to the next generation of people who are going to be onboarded? Is it this right-wing, grifty fucking way for politicians to fleece a bunch of money from retail? Is that the point of crypto? Because that's what it looks like to a lot of people. And I think it's what it's going to look like if Trump ends up hurting a bunch of retail investors.
I think this stress test as financial infrastructure, nothing has proven that it's better than all the CeFi shit. That to me is the beauty of this. This entire thing proves that DeFi was a better place to do this than CeFi.
Totally. My view is that we don't even know what the butterfly effect of this is. We are literally like,
okay, I agree with that.
We're like 60 hours into the craziest crypto launch of all time, right? And it's possible that this just has like major changes to the landscape in good ways and bad ways. Like I can think of a few right now. It might suck all the oxygen out of the meme coin market forever. It might be the end of the meme coin era, right? It might end with Donald Trump as being, a consolidated asset alongside Dogecoin. And it's like, all right, well, memes are done. Like you can't do a better meme than Doge and Trump. So like, people shift their attention elsewhere.
I assumed you were going the opposite direction, is that like Trump basically fucks over retail so badly that it ends the meme coin cycle.
Well, I think this might end the meme coin cycle, but because, there's an inability, like what pump.fun thing that was made is going to have the gravitas of, a Trump. Like it's possible this just changes the direction of like what people find.
I think it's the opposite to Tarun's point, right? There's way more people on Moonshot now, right? Like Moonshot's a fucking top 5 app. Of course you want to be launching things on Pump Fun now. Like I think it's precisely the opposite. I think like this has breathed more life into the meme coin market.
All right. I guess my point is we're like 60 hours in. I have no idea what the medium-term effect of this will be. Like it's impossible to predict.
Fair enough. So look,
like, this is so volatile and so crazy.
Yes, we're still in the fog of war. It's very easy to try to draw the line out forward, but there's the line is obviously itself incredibly volatile and is changing day to day. It may well be that when we look back on this in 6 months, we look back on this the way that we look back on, Elon Musk pumping Doge, which is that it was interesting. It was an inflection point, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this really changed the trajectory of crypto. Or we may look back on this the way that we look back on, the 3 arrows, and we say that was really a turning point, and something fundamentally changed when that happened, and something fundamentally changed about where crypto was going, right? In something that seemingly was kind of, okay, this should be disconnected from all the other things happening in crypto, but somehow it wasn't. I don't know yet.
The silver lining, again, is that the 3 arrows piece involved the technology failing and proving that it could not handle and was not designed correctly.
No, that was a hedge fund failing.
For Luna, but my point. But 3 arrows failure was really predicated on them being insanely over leveraged on Luna and like just
Well, on GBTC.
And GBTC, But my point is like their on-chain stuff. It showed that like a lot of stuff was just like not ready for prime time. A lot of the validator networks went down. Like if I look at the technical infrastructure failure around that, it was even worse in some ways. But the fact that this worked, you have to, like if you think on a 20-year timescale, regardless of what the current politics says, you want to know, does this infrastructure work? Are people able to control their own assets, and are they able to do what they want?
Tarun, you're focusing a lot on the infrastructure.
He's the train engineer.
Did Solana RPCs hold up? Yeah, exactly. It's very like train engineer perspective on like what railroads represent in society. And I think like the reality is that crypto is fundamentally social. It's political. And we just now had the fucking president of the United States launch a meme coin. And that is going to have a huge trajectory on what this technology represents.
No one remembers Leland Stanford for all of his kind of scammy bond issuances that built the railroads in the West. Everyone remembers him for creating Stanford University.
Sure, but people do remember the antitrust cases against the railroads.
But you never know the side effects. To Robert's point, is like it's like
you never know, but you can try your best to think about it. That's what our job is.
This is the equivalent of like in using the railroad analogy, aliens coming down and magically placing a railroad that goes from Chicago to like Santiago, Chile, right? And being like, well, that was weird. Like that doesn't make any sense at all. Like, why is that?
But it worked.
Yeah.
But it worked. The grifty stuff is fundamentally like it is unseemly, right? Like it's like I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, everyone should go do this or buy this. It obviously has all these negatives that we know about. But I guess I'm just trying to be like, this feels like a thing where it's such a big change that any prediction I make is probably wrong. And I want to make predictions about the things I understand here, which is like technological shifts and like people.
This is like drunk looking under the streetlight for your keys, right? Like obviously the main thing that matters is that the president of the United States launched a meme coin, and now his overwhelming majority of his net worth is in this fucking meme coin, right? How does that distort American politics? How does that distort the perception of crypto? How does that distort what the next person who thought, wow, crypto is this neutral substrate that you can use as a global financial platform? Oh no, it's not. It's a way to fleece retail. That's what crypto is. To the extent that people thought it was speculative and crazy, now the president is telling you, yes, you're exactly right, and I'm going to use it as best I can.
The question for you. Imagine you're a world leader somewhere, and you saw this
Yeah.
whole thing happen, what do you do? Like, who's like
You
equally,
launch your
let's
own-
say,
I mean, if you are
who
equally
is next? Who do you think?
sort of
Who do you think is
amoral-
going to do it? Who do you think is going to do it? Who is equally amoral?
All right, next time on the chopping block, we see which world leader.
I'm just curious. Like what? That's, for instance, that's a like much smaller prediction than trying to predict what the second.
Yeah, I mean,
and
look, the
10th order
reality is
effects
that
are.
nobody has the kind of cult-like following that Trump does, right? No world leader is anywhere close to Trump. Trump is the most famous man on earth, and now he's the most powerful man on earth. Like, there's really no comparison with anybody. I can't think of anyone. Maybe Xi Jinping, but obviously, crypto is illegal in China.
I
That's
don't
not
think
gonna
he's
work.
launching one.
Yeah, I don't think he's.
I don't think he's launching one, at least not on Punk.
But could I see Modi launching one? Yes, maybe.
Modi? Maybe. I don't know.
I'm telling you, the second
bizarre.
I think the geopolitics of the other people, to me, that's more interesting. Like, what's going to happen?
There's a lot more normalization of corruption in other countries in the US. I mean, that's why it's so weird, right? Like, if you learned that Modi had launched a meme coin and not Trump, you would have been like, wow, okay, but I guess, I don't know, India's crazy, why not? The president of the United States launching a meme coin, owning 80% of the supply, unlocks in 3 months. They've already sold 500 million.
I'm not
guys,
disagreeing with you on these facts, right? And we all know, if we've been in crypto long enough, that type of economics is bad. It's not going to help end up well for
we were
these
talking
participants.
shit about like Mother, and that was like so tame compared to this.
Yeah, I remember I kept looking at the Mother market cap and like the
Where's Mother?
delta
How did it
over
do?
time over like during this weekend. I was like, it's like 20.
Wait,
it was like
is it
27.
up or down or? Oh, way down.
Down,
Okay, I
down,
see.
way down,
All
way
right,
down,
all
way
right.
down.
Oh yeah, Mother
Got it.
is a relatively dead asset.
Yeah.
Okay.
So look, I agree with that. I just want to
R.I.P.
like,
Izzy.
I want to just say that like everything that looks bad underneath, there's some kernel of goodness. And I'm just trying to unearth that. You guys, I know you want to go for the like, oh, everything sucks, whatever part of the world, but I'm trying to.
I mean, look,
there's some optimism.
I take Robert's point that you don't know, and in retrospect, it may just be a blip. It's like, oh, well, that really sucks, and like, yeah, people think Trump is grifty. Whatever. A lot of people think Trump is grifty. They thought before this meme coin, people also thought Trump was grifty. And so maybe I'm overreacting. We're kind of in the wake of this crazy thing, and there have been a lot of crazy weekends when RPCs went down. Like, I don't know, it happens once a year that there's some crazy event that RPCs go down. So it may well be that we're too close to it right now, and the overwhelming thing may be when we fast forward 6 months is that, okay, yeah, some retail's losing money on Trump coin, whatever, who cares? There's always retail losing money on things that Trump tells them to buy. I'm not going to lose any sleep over people losing money on Truth Social. But the main vector may just be the deregulation of crypto, banks coming into the space, stablecoins growing, stablecoin legislation, all that stuff, which I think is likely to continue happening, and potentially a strategic Bitcoin reserve. All of that may dwarf all this stuff. And to be clear, I think that Bitcoin is largely going to be unperturbed by this, right? And you kind of saw that actually. Bitcoin hit 108K as of yesterday. It went down a bit because Trump didn't say anything about crypto, but during the inauguration. But I think what's very clear is that the Bitcoin story is basically totally orthogonal to this story. I think it's tech crypto, which is most of what the four of us spend our time in, which is really, I think, potentially harmed by this. Is crypto really a tech story, or is it Bitcoin plus a bunch of speculation? And I think that's the charge that we've been fighting as an industry, is that there's a lot more going on than just meme coins and people, finding a way to fleece, everyday mom and pops. But you're right. It may well be that in 6 months we're back on trend line, and basically this thing was just a blip. I don't know, but my sense right now is that it's probably at least 30-40% that this really hit a soft trend line. But I agree with you that there's a real possibility that I'm overreacting, and that this thing is not going to matter as much as it feels like it does right now.
We shall see.
So we shall see.
By the way, before we sign off, none of the four of us predicted this in our predictions. So why should we be able to?
I agree.
That is very true. That's very
Our
true.
predictions were way too
last question. How many of us are sidelined on the Trump Melania complex? I am sidelined.
What do you mean sideline?
Do we own it or not own it?
Do you own any?
Oh,
Do you own any?
I have some Trump. Yeah.
Tarun owns some Trump. Okay, all right. So
Tarun,
Tarun, you're the only one who actually owns it. You're the only one who's been positive about this whole thing.
No,
That's
I've
not
been
true.
positive.
Robert, you were fairly positive.
But
You were fairly positive.
I own like one Sol because I was basically using tracers to see how well the RPCs.
So
I was not
Robert
buying like a
engineered
lot.
this.
I was like basically like trying to see like
Oh, I see.
latency of
You were-
and stuff
you were doing
because
test
people
transactions.
were complaining about it.
Perfect.
And-
That's so perfect. That's so
That
perfect.
fits. Yeah,
You
that
were
fits.
buying Trump as a test transaction while sitting at the back of the train, helping the engineers.
I just
shovel,
want to
coal into the
understand. I just
engine.
wanted to understand like
I
the
love that.
performance
I love
things
that.
people are complaining about and whether they were like real or not.
Perfect. It's perfect.
Love it.
Okay.
So it's like
excellent.
it's
On
not
that
it's not
note-
a lot. It's just like yeah.
Okay. All right. Nice. On that note, signing off. See you, everybody.
Yeah.